All right, testing 1, 2, 3. Looks good. See if anybody's out there who can actually hear me. And then we can get the show on the road, as they like to say in showbiz. Ugh. Or we could just take a nap. Napping is good. I'm all for the nap. Wednesday. Why is it? I don't know. It was a short week, wasn't it? We started yesterday on Tuesday. Why does it feel like it should be Thursday? But it's definitely Wednesday because I'm giving a webinar. What happened to, let me see, wait. You come back from a 3-day weekend and you have a short week. Shouldn't the short week feel short too? I don't know. Just all these summer days blend together. Whoops. Almost dropped my phone. Oh, Apple's event starting soon too. We got to get going, guys. Nobody can hear me? Anybody? Hello? Yeah, let's not mess around here. Everybody's out getting coffee or whatever they do. So what was I going to look for just now? It wasn't Apple's event that I picked my phone up for. Oh, yeah. I was going to look at what the temperature is, and it won't tell me. The weather machine is not working. Oh, there it goes, 90. 90's not bad, I guess. New York, 70. Give me a break. Chicago, LA, only 85. That's not bad. Still early in the morning, I guess. Highs in the 90s. So they got the same temperature we do. What are they complaining about? London is 70. That's lovely. San Francisco is 70. That's lovely. Tokyo up to 80. Orlando 90s. Las Vegas 109. Winner. With all my little phone channels that tells me where places where I actually care about what the weather might be. Woof, stay out of Las Vegas. 109 today, 108 tomorrow. Not much of a break. So nobody can hear me, huh? This is a waste of time. Anybody? It says there are people here. Somebody in the question box say hello. Or maybe nobody can hear me. The little dots are moving on the microphone. Seems like people should be able to hear me. Oh, let's see. What can I do while I'm waiting to see if anybody can hear me? Oh, I could find the Apple event. How about that? That's always fun. It's gonna be on apple.com. Are you gonna need some freaky Apple thing? Oh, there's people. Hi guys. Are you gonna need some freaky thing to do it? Uh-oh. Windows Defender security. Access to this PC has been blocked for security reasons. Are they serious?
Important security message.
What?
Your computer has been locked up. Your IP address was used without your knowledge or consent to visit websites that contains identity theft virus. To unlock the computer, please call support immediately. Please do not attempt to shut down or restart your computer. Doing that may lead to data loss and identity theft. The computer lock is aimed to stop illegal activity. Please call our support immediately. Important security message. Your computer has been locked up. Your IP address was used without your knowledge or consent to visit websites that contains identity theft virus.
Can you guys hear this? What this thing is saying?
To unlock the computer, please call support immediately. Please do not attempt to shut down or restart your computer. Doing that may lead to data loss and identity theft. The computer lock is aimed to stop illegal activity. Please call our support immediately.
What the hell?
Important security message.
It just updated the computer.
Has been locked up. Your IP address was used without your knowledge or consent to visit websites.
Does sound like a scam, right? But how do I make it stop?
To unlock the computer, please call support immediately. Please do not attempt to shut down or restart your computer.
It will not let me do
Doing
anything.
that may lead to data loss and identity theft. The computer lock is aimed to stop illegal activity. Please call our support immediately. Important security message. Your computer has been locked up. Your
And if I
IP
hit
address was
Control
used
Alt
without your
Delete and I
knowledge
bring
or
up the
consent to
Task
visit
Manager,
websites that contains
it doesn't even
identity
show that
theft
it's a thing
virus.
running.
To unlock the computer, please call support immediately. Please do not attempt to shut down or restart your computer. Doing that may lead to data loss and identity theft.
I'm so pissed.
The computer lock is aimed to stop illegal activity. Please call our support immediately. Important security message. Your computer has been locked up. Your IP address.
Well, I hate to tell you, but I'm going to have to shut down and hopefully it'll reconnect.
Identity theft virus. To unlock the computer,
I hope
please
this
call
doesn't break the
support
webinar.
immediately. Please do not attempt to shut down or restart your computer. Doing
I
that may
am
lead
going
to
to shut
data
down
loss
and
and
restart my
identity
computer.
theft. The computer lock is aimed to stop illegal activity. Please call our support immediately. Important security message. Your computer has been locked up. Your IP address was used without your knowledge or consent to visit websites that contains identity theft virus.
Aha. Maybe you guys are still there. I just shut down Google Chrome, but I didn't shut down the webinar. I wonder if that made a difference. Let me try this again. Are you guys still there? Hang on, I'm just going to restart Chrome and see what that does. The only problem is, oh, you son of a bitch. Okay, good. You guys can still hear me. Oh, restore. Good, thank you. Restore. There we go. Oh no, it restored the frickin' it started restoring the security thing. All right. That was weird, man. You know what happened? I tried to go to apple.com, you know, to check out the seminar or whatever they're doing. Let me try this in an incognito window now. Oh, you guys, hang on. Let me show you my screen while I'm doing it. Click to start screen sharing. Yeah, here you go. Let me know when you can see this. All right, so here we are in incognito. AP. Oh, see, it's aapl.com. That's weird. Wow, it is some kind of scam. All right, here we are at the Apple event. We can check this out along the way. Oh, tell me, I wonder if you guys can see this. Okay, wait, there's that. Nope. Do you know what I lost, though? I lost the question box. Oh, this is the question box. Silly me. There it is. I'm like, I lost the question box. I'm looking at it. It just kind of got slammed to the top somehow. Okay, I got it. We're good. All right, so now we'll see if we can see the webinar or the event or whatever. What's going on here? Apple, blah, blah. I don't want to watch this whole thing. It's going to be like a half hour. Let's see what happens. That was freaky.
It has all the things you love about Apple Watch, plus even more.
We're in the middle of it.
Series 8 is beautifully designed and packed with the most advanced sensors and technology. It features a big, brilliant, always.
Can you guys see that video? Is this working?
Push the screen right to the edge. Detailed watch faces like the new Lunar, Astronomy, Metropolitan, and Modular look stunning. And it's so bright that text and complications are easy to read even when your wrist is down. And Series 8 is durable. It's swim-proof, dust-proof, and crack-resistant. To tell you more about Series 8, here's Deidre.
How's it going, guys? Is this video working? What, can you see it? Yeah.
Connected to the people and things that you
Well, that's interesting. That's actually pretty well designed if it works.
Stay active and fit. With workouts and Fitness Plus, there are so many
Oh.
ways to exercise using
Meanwhile,
Series 8 helps keep you safe with fall detection, emergency SOS, and
Apple
medical ID.
event
It has sleep tracking, cycle tracking,
live
and
stream.
mindfulness to give you insights into your
Some people
body
do like a
and help
good
you
job of
maintain
just
healthy
summarizing it
habits.
along the way, so you don't have to sit there and watch the whole thing.
Sensors that enable ECG, irregular rhythm notifications, and blood oxygen. It is the ultimate
The
device for
Verge.
a healthy life. And now, Series 8 brings even more features for health, safety, and connectivity. Starting with an innovative new temperature sensor that takes our commitment to women's health even further. And here's Sumbul to tell you about it.
Oh, it's going to annoy the crap out of me. How about
Women's
these guys?
health impacts more than just women. It also impacts their families and communities. And menstrual cycles are key to a woman's health. So much so that many physicians regard them as a vital sign.
All right.
We added cycle tracking 3 years.
Oh, please. It's like a half-hour commercial. All right. Covering the event today, blah, blah, blah. They're talking about could get updates. Here's their live thing. Okay, so 1 minute, 2 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago, I guess you got to start at the bottom. 11 minutes ago, 13 minutes ago, Steve Jobs Theater. What a cool little thing. Okay, so Tim Cook comes on stage. Cook says in 2020, we talk about 3 products become essential. Okay, iPhone, AirPods, and iWatch. So now we know what they're going to talk about. And we saw a little bit of the iWatch thing. Whoop. And I guess we will have to see what happens for the rest of it. Let's see. All right, so then it's got applications and so on and so forth, and we'll check back a little bit later. I'm not going to watch the whole thing. Otherwise, we'll go straight from that to the Beige Book. But anyway, so how is Apple stock reacting? That's one question we have. And let's see. So far, no big deal. Nobody seems to care, and there's nothing exciting going on. So I'm not going to worry about it until later. I was looking because we have in the butterfly portfolio is the only place we have a really big Apple position. Butterfly portfolio. And boy, was it smart of us to cash that out, because we cashed out half of our Apple longs, which left us net short on Apple. And that's given us a nice gain, actually, because we cashed these out when they were quite a bit more expensive, the 110 calls. And then Apple had a little bit of a pullback. And we've got the short. So basically, we were half uncovered, and we just took the money off the table, but we left the short calls. So we're kind of bearish here, because we sold the September 145s. We are over target. We sold them for 9. They're now 10.55. Not a big deal. If this event goes gangbusters, this position will be in trouble. But either way, we've got, we have until June of 2024 to roll this. So it's not really a thing that's going to be in trouble. It's going to be think or swim, think or swim, think or swim. Hang on. Bring that up. Okay. I'm waiting for that to boot up. There we go. So 817 is when we sold. It was really good timing. We got rid of those Apple calls when they were still at 175, 176, and now we're down to 155. So we're in good shape no matter what. You know, when we made the call, we were significantly higher. And the point was, you could see that it's triple topping. We were moving into uncertainty, so we went away from it. So the point was, though, wasn't the point I was making. The point was that Apple AAPL. That's why I wrote AAPL. Ah, now I know what mistake I made with that thing. Those guys they trapped me with that nonsense. See, they get you to do that, and then you panic and call that number, and the number starts asking you your personal information. They're like, "Oh, we can help you. Tell us your Social Security number." Anyhow, so we sold the short September 145 calls, right? And we were protecting ourselves because we didn't know how low it was going to go. It didn't. Turns out they're still pretty hyped up at the moment. But the focus is that they're at like 1080. And if we look further down the road, go to January and say, what's 1080 in January? Well, the 160s are 1080 in January. So in most normal conditions, we're going to be able to roll those short 145s to the 160s. Now, Apple's at 155 now. So even the 160s are a little dicey for the short term, but then ultimately those 160s can be rolled to, and I'm sure the Junes are out already, so you know they can be rolled to the June. What in Apple is? Hang on. Damn it, you guys can't see this, I don't think, but let's see. Tools for running the webinar. There we go. So what in June is $11 to 175. So basically, we got the short June 175. So we still think 175 is the top. But because I think 175 is the top, and remember I just said this morning, 175 is getting up to $3 trillion. I think it's going to be hard for Apple with 100 billion in earnings, and they're announcing watches, earbuds, and what did they say? That they must be the iPhone, right? I forgot what they said. I forgot what they said they were doing. But you know, these are the facts as they roll in. So I'm sorry. So what did he say he was going to talk about? Tim Cook said iPhone, right? So the iPhone 14, everybody knew this, so no excitement there. AirPods, yawn. Apple Watch, okay, it's just another, you know, it's the same thing. Did they change the watch significantly? No, the same watch. Crash detection. It looks like you've been in a crash. My mother gets this if she falls down. She gets it. It's, I don't know if it says you fell down or you're in a crash, but it says something like that when she falls. Apple takes a moment to know your health data is encrypted, blah, blah, blah. See, this is so boring. I hate to be watching this. That's it. So nothing exciting. Anyway, so iPhone, watch, earbuds. This is not a big exciting event that's going to move the stock, or probably not anyway. Whoops. So that being the case, I'm not backing my premise that Apple is probably going to top out at $10 billion. 10 billion? No, 3 trillion. I don't know where that came from. That Apple's going to top out at $3 trillion, which is 30 times their $100 billion earnings, is probably going to stick, because there's no particular reason for me to think Apple's going to earn a lot more than that between now and next June. And there's no major new product announcements that are supposed to be coming out. Maybe the surprise is here, you know, but then what happens? Worst comes to worst. Worst comes to worst, they pop an extra $10 instead of making money like we think we're going to do on the short calls. Back to this. So in other words, we have, and the 110s are low, right? That's why we sold half of them, because we had 160 of them. We pocketed $500,000. So we sold 80, pocketed $500,000. Now we have $500,000 cash. we have the 80, I'm sorry, we have the 110, 150 spread times 8. So we still have $320,000 in this spread, right? So it's 40 times 8, right? And we have a 1-year advantage on these that we can roll them along too. So really, it's more like at least a $50 spread for $200,000. I'm sorry, for $400,000, a $50 spread, because we're certainly going to be able to roll those. We're going to be able to roll these short calls up to higher levels. So it's going to be hard for them to burn us too badly. So even if we lose $10,000 here, I mean, even if we have to pay 20 to get them back, we're only going to lose about $60,000. So against all those gains, we can only lose 60. Well, not can only, you could lose more if it pops up. If somebody buys Apple for $4 trillion, we're in trouble. But since that's highly unlikely, we're not too worried about it. And that's how we ended up in a position like that. With Amazon, we have some short calls in September. We don't have any short puts because it hasn't fallen far enough, but we have short. How much did Amazon fall? La di da da da. AMZN. Yeah, if they fall back to 100, I'll sell some short puts, but I'm not selling short puts over here. I'm not sure what they're going to do. And because again, they're way overpriced. In a recession, in an uncertain economy, under no circumstances whatsoever do you want to be risking owning, getting shoved a whole bunch of Amazon at you. Or any major stock that's like that, because you don't want to get caught holding the bag. But we sold the short September 110 calls. They're at 127, so we have the same issue here. But these were burning us, and they're not now. So we'll see what happens there. 616. What was 616? Where was Amazon on 616? Oh, they were way down here. Look at that. See? So we thought they were going to actually go lower at the time, and they kind of burned us to the upside, come back a bit, and now we'll see what happens. But again, they're going to be rollable. And then we have Disney. And now in this case, this is a $120,000 spread. In Disney, we've got the 125, 155 spread times 60 is $180,000 spread. We have the short puts on the long side, and we're getting burned on those too. Wait, we're not getting burned on those because we sold them for a lot of money. Silly me. So those were aggressively sold, which is a good thing, it turns out. And in October, we have only 20 short calls, 1/3 sale. And we also have some short puts to offset the short calls. So far, we're kind of right on track with this one. And you can tell from the numbers. I mean, they're looking pretty good. So we're okay there. Ford, I don't think I finished the adjustments, actually. I'm sorry, but I didn't finish making the adjustments from the last review because I know we did something with Ford. So I'm not going to bother looking at too closely. But the big guys are what matters in this portfolio. And we're holding up okay. We're still at 800%, which is still 1.8 million, but now we have 1.45 million in cash. So very good shape on that. But, and again, it's because we just keep making these adjustments as it moves in the channel. But the key is it's not unknowable to do. It got Apple, not you, Apple was working a channel, and that channel is $3 trillion, and down here is $2 trillion. So is Apple worth 2 trillion or 3 trillion? Certainly not worth 4 trillion. It's not, how are you going to give it an extra $1 trillion? Think about that. That's a lot of money. That's a ridiculous amount of money. So every $60 for Apple is 1 trillion. So it's 1 trillion, 2 trillion, and 3 trillion. So 2.5 trillion is what? 120 is 150. The 2.5 trillion, oh yeah, it's where we are now, 150. We're at 2.5 trillion. So is it worth 3 trillion or is it worth 2 trillion? That's your range. Okay, it's very easy. 2 trillion is 20 times earnings. Apple is a great growth company, should be more than 20 times earnings. Also, you got to give it some points for being so rock solid and sound investment for, ever since it was basically founded. So it's always a good time to own Apple. So 2 trillion is a really good floor to bet on. 3 trillion though, that's just tough to get over. That's 30 times their earnings. And not that they can't do it, but they have to do something more radical than sell more iPhones to get to $3 trillion. They've got to start really making inroads in the car market or the home market. Those are the 2 big markets that I expect them to be expanding into down the road. I think you're going to have Apple car environments. I think that when Uber picks you up, your iPhone will automatically configure the car settings, like put on the music you want, the temperature you want, adjust the seats the way you want it. It'll be that way before you get in the car. You know, and I think that's especially when they start having self-driving cars where it's all basically it's your car that's picking you up, right? You want the environment to be tailored to you so you feel comfortable in it like it is your car, not just some random car. And the same thing will go for hotel rooms and things like that. Things will get configured the way your phone tells it to configure it when you walk in. And I think Apple's going to play a big part in that stuff. They talk about Apple having a car. Apple has a car division. They're certainly working on something, but you know, again, you know, you can't count on that. And also, I still have my doubts about Tesla. But I think we talked about this with Ford last week or 2 weeks ago. You know, if Tesla is not full of crap, which is, you know, iffy, but if Tesla is not full of crap, what's this? Oh, we didn't log in to stock. Oh, that's right, because I rebooted the thing. La da da. What are we talking about? Tesla. You know, it's hard to unravel with these guys how much of their profit is coming from government subsidies and things like that. But here, you know, here you have a company selling not a lot of cars, a couple of million cars. They're worth $1 billion. I mean, $1 trillion. They're worth $1 trillion. They're making $15 billion. That's not, now for Apple, that's only 15% more than they make now. But if Apple started making cars, you could easily jack them up about probably the same 25 something earnings here. So let's say 25, yeah, half a trillion dollars you could probably add to Apple realistically if they start making cars and have a plan to go to millions of cars. People will start paying up for that very quickly. The point being though, a normal car manufacturer doesn't make what is this? It's not 20%, whatever it is, 17%, 16%. They don't make 16% drop to the bottom line. That's just crazy. So, are electric cars more profitable? Elon Musk is saying yes, they are. Other people are saying no, it's accounting fraud. Yeah, so you have to decide what's real and what's not real. What happens when there are no subsidies? What happens when there's no incentives? What's going to happen to the price of the cars, so on and so forth. Also, you're still in the novelty car market with Tesla. So he's got the pricing to himself. You know, when you go to buy an SUV, even if you're buying, you know, even if you're buying a Jaguar SUV, or you're buying a BMW SUV or Porsche SUV, you're looking at, you know, similar cars with similar features, and they've got to be really tightly competitive on price. The Bentley stuff and the Rolls Royce, the Bentley and whatever, they don't tend to compete as much on price because they're in their own little category. Aston Martin, they've got their own sort of brands, and people are going to buy them, and they kind of have that loyalty. So you know how the people, Rolls people, Bentley people, things like that, they're not going to really cross over. That's a niche market. They don't make a lot of those things. They're $250,000 each. But in the 100,000 range, where they actually sell some volume of cars, they're kind of competitive with all their little features and everything. And as you get down closer to like $60,000, they're very, very feature competitive, and they're not making these kind of margins. And I don't think magically, if it's an SUV, first of all, you know, these dealerships make a huge amount of money on service. So the whole dealership model is going to be in trouble because you don't really service SUVs that much. I mean, I guess you have to balance the wheels and do stuff, but I think it's going to be a problem for their whole business model for these dealerships. And we'll see what happens. But meanwhile, the point being, if Apple starts making cars, they would model it the way Tesla models it, because Tesla doesn't really have, Tesla doesn't have showrooms. They do in some states, but not in others. But basically, it's almost like a mail order car company. So Apple would love that. And Apple would also love to have these margins. But you know what? Even so, Apple has had a policy ever since I was a kid. When Apples first came out, and I used to work in computers when I was right out of college, and they used to not sell anything, and still to this day, they don't sell anything that they can't make 35% to the bottom line on. So the car would basically not qualify for them. Even at the Tesla's margins, they're not going to. They would have to change their policy pretty drastically to start making cars, because they can't make enough money on them. But what Tesla makes is way more. Let's go to like GM. So here's GM making 10 billion on 154 billion. It's not even. It's not even. 15 billion would be 10%. So it's 7%, 6.6%. And Toyota is going to be in yen. So Toyota makes 31 bazillion yen, and they make 2.6 bazillion yen. So again, it's below 10% numbers, and that's a very, very different world. And so according to Elon Musk, if they make electric cars instead, now if that's true, these guys are all going to make a fortune. But if it was true, they'd be retooling their plants at a record pace, and they're not doing that. Ultimately, though, everyone's going to have electric cars. It's just the future. So, it's more watch the battery technology. We'll see what happens there. Tom says SunPower is up 13%. Oh, that's nice. I wonder why. What did they do? La da da. SPWR. SunPower is our stock of the decade. So we like to see this sort of thing happen. SunPower CFO steps down. That's not a reason to do that. That's interesting. I see nothing. SunPower Inc.'s big IKEA partnership, but this was a month ago. Interesting. Let's see if Yahoo has any news. Oh, it's not very Yahoo. La da 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 da. How about you guys? SPWR. We're super aggressive. SunPower is probably the stock we're most aggressive in our portfolios, and like I said, it's our stock of the decade. We already have been in and out of it for the decade, because look what happened here. So we started. It was our stock of the decade here in November 2019, wherever that is. August, September, October, November. So Thanksgiving 2019, it was stupidly priced at like $5. And I said, this is our stock of the decade. This is a ridiculous price for this company. They went up to $50, which that's the point of our stock of the decade. We picked the thing most likely to be a 10 bagger. And, so we were done with it basically then. We played with it when it came back down here, but I mean, officially we were out of our stock of the decade. But now we re-officially got back in, because the last time they dipped, they came back down to $15 again. And do I think they can go to $150? Absolutely, over the next 10 years for sure. And they're very small in sales. They don't have a very large market cap. It's $4 billion. They are doing 100 million in sales, not now, in 2024. But that's going to go 100, 200, 400, a billion. And they're only at 4 billion now. So you gotta, you know, with these kind of companies, you want to look ahead and see where they're going to be and what they're actually doing. And they are going to be a major solar player. And a major solar player, when you're in a country where the whole solar industry is going to be expanding exponentially, you know, it's going to, they're all going to be affected. But I think SunPower is probably one of the top contenders for having a nice market share down the road. So I see them as a really great stock for the future. Oh yeah, we're going to look at the news. Nothing. No news here. No news on Seeking Alpha. If anybody sees something, let us know. But that's weird how they just suddenly pop like that. But anyway, so the point being that we are, it wouldn't be in the butterfly portfolio, but like in the Money Talk portfolio, which we did update all the positions. Oh my God. Wait. What were we at yesterday? That's interesting. Phil's posts. Because we just looked at the Money Talk portfolio yesterday. Well, that's worth discussing. Let's take a look at that. Phil's posts. There we go. Love that show. I don't know how well it held up, but when I was a kid, I used to love watching Hogan's Heroes. Those crazy Nazis. All right, let's see. La da 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 da, la da 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 da. There it is. Oh, 175. Not a big move. Still pretty good. So we were at 275 yesterday, and of course we don't touch the Money Talk portfolio, and it's at 289, 14,000 today. So that's pretty good. That is pretty good for a conservative portfolio. So here we are. Anyway, so in our normally conservative portfolio, what do we have? We have gold, which we expect to. We see how it's one of those like a butterfly play. It's all covered all over the place. So we're using that to make money. Intel we think is stupidly cheap. JP Morgan just value at this price at 115. Logitech. Oh, and I wrote a whole thing underneath it on the wait a minute, where are we? Here. Yeah, so I wrote a whole little thing. So what we're doing is we're taking these positions, we're moving them into a brand new $100,000 portfolio. So it's the same $35,000 worth of positions. We're moving into a $100,000 portfolio and starting effectively from scratch as of whatever those numbers were at the last Money Talk portfolio. I still have to make the new one. So the old one though is just doing gangbusters, and that's funny. SoFi just picked up a celebrity spokesperson, somebody in football, I forgot who it was. And they're going to start advertising and promoting, which I'm very happy about. Logitech, of course, I think is a good utility thing. And here's SunPower, and I said could be the big winner at net $35,000. All we need is $25 to justify it, which we just crossed right now, right? Charts. We'll take away Apple, SPWR, and we'll put in SunPower. So here we are at $26.95. Perfect. And I said the 202430s are 540. So let's say we get to 30 and sell the 35s for 540 for that price. Then we're in the $70,000 spread. So in other words, right now we're in it for $35,000, but we're only in it because we bought back. We had some short puts originally, but SunPower went down. So we rolled the long calls to a lower strike and we bought back the short puts, leaving us very aggressive. All right, but why are we very aggressive? We're very aggressive because we thought it was stupid. We thought that it was stupidly cheap. Look, we sold these puts. We sold these January $20 puts. And again, you think we're being aggressive because it was May 12th. And on May 12th, nope, you're not SunPower. So in the middle of May, SunPower was down here and we sold the $20 puts. And that's why people say, like, what put should we sell on a stock? It's like, there's no way to say what put you sell because you have to think about what you expect the stock to do. So between now and 2024, I was quite certain that SunPower would be back over 20. So why would I sell the 15 puts or the 10 puts? Usually I want to get a discount if I'm going to end up getting stuck with the stock. I want to get a nice discount to the price. But in this case, I am very confident in my stock of the decade, and I don't mind rolling the puts along. I certainly don't mind owning 1,000 shares of SunPower. So we just made an aggressive sale of the 20 puts. Now I wish I had sold the $30 puts. But anyway, it's just, I expect this kind of thing to happen again. People realize what they're doing, and buzz starts going around the company, and people say, oh my God, if they can actually do this, this, and that, then it's going to be a $10 billion company. So I better get in now. And there's enough shorts in here to squeeze the crap out of these guys too. So we like SunPower a lot, and in more than one portfolio, it's extremely aggressive like this, and that's because it got so low. Wherever we are, it got so low that, and we're value investors. So at this price, which was more or less $2 billion for the company, and none of this changed. You know, this stuff didn't change. So they got down to $2 billion, and I know they made in this year they made $475 million. Yet this year they came down. Why? Because this year they were reinvesting. See, that's the thing. Why were they going up? Why were they going down? They went into a reinvestment cycle, an R&D cycle. They've got to keep making their solar panels better and more efficient, and look at the material mix and so on and so forth, and the conversion process. They are the most efficient solar panels on the market, and they're not. And from an expense standpoint too, they work out all right for the consumers. But efficiency is important, mostly because not everybody has a very large roof. So efficiency, the more efficient your solar panels are, the less coverage area you need for your solar panels. So though they are not the cheapest solar panels, they are the necessary solar panels for a large number of homeowners. And that's something that people, analysts don't understand this, because they don't, most analysts, they don't understand the business that they're analyzing. They look at the companies and they look at the numbers, but you don't think like, why are they doing what they're doing? Why is this company positioning themselves this way? For SunPower, they're recognizing that there is a low-hanging fruit of, maybe 30% of the homes are the kind of homes that are going to be perfect for any solar panel, slap it down, so on and so forth. Elon Musk has said, I want to go after the segment though of people who have nice homes and don't want big, black, ugly solar panels. So he's pushing to get solar panels that look nice, that look like tiles on your roof. That hurts the efficiency and so on, and makes it much more expensive and so on and so forth. He's going after a different market. SunPower is saying, no. We're going after the 60% of the market who these people, our competitors, would look at their roof and say, your roof isn't really suitable. We can't save you much money because we need 1,500 square feet of roofing, and you only have 1,100 square feet of roofing, and we're not going to be able to cover all your solar, and your payback time is going to be 30 years, and our leasing company wants to see a 15 to 20 year payback. There's all these moving parts, and SunPower is addressing all that stuff. And they are going to have probably way better penetration than most of the other companies, because they're addressing the harder to fit market. And they're pushing the boundaries on efficiency constantly. The danger, of course, is somebody else could come up with something more efficient, but you know what? That's why I like to see this. They're like, hey, look how much money we made. Let's put it back into R&D. And then, because then they think, because this is what they do. Here, R&D, lots of money, R&D, lots of money, next few years, and then back to R&D cycle. That's fine, because one day, just like Tesla, just like Amazon, one day they'll suddenly make unbelievable amounts of money, yet you would have bought the stock at $4 billion, or $2 billion if you had come in with us a few months ago. Anyway, so we didn't start out, but we ended up with a 35,000. So in the butterfly portfolio, remember I said our positions are $35,000, right? entire tie-up of cash in our portfolio is this position. It's net $35,000. The other positions are net zero. These ones net $35,000. So what we know we can do, we're planning on selling the 202430s for $540. And how much are the 202430s now? What? Oh, right. No, that seems odd. Oh, I know, because I want to sell the 35. So we hit our goal. So the 35s are the 540 we expected. When I said it, when I wrote that, the 30s were 540. Now, and I said when the 35s get to 540, we'll sell them. But look at this. Now the 40s are 540, or they're 5 anyway. So rather than take the extra money here, I would rather take the extra $5. And you know why? Because this is like if we sell the 35s, we'll get $6, right? If we sell these, we're going to get $5, the 40s. But if we sell the 40s, now we have a really wide spread. We have the damned if I remember it. We have the 15. We have the $15-$40 spread. So if I'm selling the 40s, then I've got 35 of them. Even if we fully cover 35 40s, I'm not going to worry about selling 10 short calls. And so now I can make an income selling 10 short calls. It's going to far outpace the extra the extra $3,500 I would have gotten. So if we sell 10 short calls and we look ahead, so you got to think of like all the different angles on this. But let's say we sold 10 short January. What are we at? We're at 27. So let's say we sold 10 short 30s. That's $3,500 right there. We sell the 35s, which would be safer. We get $2,000, and we can do that 4 times probably. So we can collect $8,000 selling 10 short calls that are very far out of the money. $8 out of 27 is like 30% out of the money. So we can sell 30% out of the money calls 4 times, making $2,000 each. We'll knock another $8,000 off the price. So that means that I will cover. So we will cover, although not right now because it had such a big pop that we're like, we can afford to let it ride at the moment. So I said, see, when we get to 30, we'll sell the 35s for 540, and now we're already over 540. And then we're going to drop the 70. We're going to drop the spread to net, maybe a little bit less than that. Maybe we'll take instead of taking 18 off, we might take 15 off or 16 off, whatever. So we'll be in for net $20,000. But then, because we have a nice wide spread, we're going to sell $8,000 worth of short calls against it. And now we're going to be at net $12,000, still called away at $70,000. So instead of making $53,000, well, there's a couple of things. Instead of making $53,000 at 35, we would make I forgot what I said. When I say we get down to $12,000, we'd make $58,000 at 35, but we'd also make another $15,000 or so if it goes up to 40. We still have headroom for it to go higher. And that's what options trading is you have to, it's kind of like playing chess. You have to think of the move. And if I move there, then what could happen? When you move a chess piece, you say, well, let's look at one. These are terrible pictures. Seriously. Well, I guess they're not going to see. It's interesting because the computer doesn't think I want to see a game in progress. Not important enough to keep doing this. Okay, let's see. Huh. You'd think it would have advanced more by now. Anywho, so when you're in a chess game like this guy, so let's look at that one. So you're in a chess game, you're moving, he's probably moving from here to here, all right? And he's got to say to himself, well, what can happen if I move here? The bishop can't get me, so that's okay. The pawn can advance, that's not going to hurt. He can only go up 2, blah, blah, blah. So this is a safe move. There's nothing in the next move can possibly hurt it, right? And this is the same thing as when you set up an option play. What could happen? Well, the market could go up, or it could go down, or it could go flat, or whatever, and none of those things are going to bother me. So therefore, this is not a bad move. Now, what if I moved here? See, that piece, if he moves here, well, then this pawn can advance and take him on the next move. This pawn can advance, take him on the next move. Not the bishop. No. This guy, where did I say? To here? Nope. Wait, where's he coming from? Here to there. Nope, nobody else can get him. So you can be attacked by the pawns and can't see anything there. So that move is not as good. This one is better. It's safer. It doesn't mean it's going to win him any points. So he's got to have a plan for what he's going to do after that. And so do you. So what's my plan? My plan is saying, okay, here's where we are now with SunPower. We have 35 open long calls. What are we going to do? Well, given the market looks like this at the moment and SunPower popped up, my plan, that was my plan when I was here. I was already thinking about this next move. My plan now is ready to execute. I'm going to move here and do something safe, which is cover by selling the calls. I'm going to take in $15,000, $16,000 worth of cash, which will now reduce my portfolio exposure tremendously and put my portfolio overall in better shape to be able to buy something else down the road. Now, because I'm going to take a little less money on the 40s than I would have taken on the 35s, I'm reducing my cash a little more right now, but I don't particularly need it for anything. Therefore, and I will also sell some short calls and start bringing in $2,000 more dollars. I was going to get $3,500 more dollars if I sold the 35s, but now I'm going to get $2,000 for selling the short term, whatever the hell I was planning on selling, the short term 35s. If all goes well, I'm going to collect $8,000, and that would be much more than I had planned on collecting from this move. So now that the board has developed, I have now made a different strategy. I said, oh, it went better than I thought. He made a stupid move. They overpriced SunPower, or it went up faster than I thought. We moved to this box. We do our planned cover. There's no reason not to. Nothing can hurt us by covering, right? And in fact, nothing can hurt us to the point where I'm willing to take the risk and look ahead at another move, because now I can see more clearly what the strategy could be as it unfolds. So now I've got this position. I fully cover with the 40s, and I also sell 10 of the 35, the short-term 35s, the Jan 35s, I think I said. And then what can hurt is there. If I have the Jan 35s are now exposed, let's say those are them. So now my Jan 35s are exposed. What can hurt me? Well, that can move in. The market can go up too much and it can go there, but if it goes there, I take him. If it goes there, I'm gonna move my Jan 35s to the March somethings, so this guy can't get me anymore, right? And then I have to only worry about what happens in June and July. What if it keeps going up? Well, then I'll have to do this or that. And you gotta think ahead. I don't wanna get boxed in. I don't wanna be in a position that's gonna hurt me in the long run. So I think about this move and the next move and the move after that. And it all sounds daunting. And this is why it's hard for people to learn how to play chess. So it's all about how many moves ahead you think. So when you start the game, kids, when they start the game, don't generally think moves ahead. They think of the now. They think of this move now, and then they see what happens. But that's not how you play chess. You're not going to be a good chess player if that's how you look at a board. You have to think of this move and the next move and what your opponent can do, and then your next move. If he does this, then I'll do that, and if he does that, I'll do this, and if he does this, I'll do that. But then if he does this and I do that, then he's probably going to do that, and then I got to think about what I do to that, and so on and so forth. And a good chess player, a really good chess player, is 8 moves, 10 moves, 12 moves ahead. They're literally thinking about the whole game being over while you're still thinking about what your opening move is going to be. They're like, you know, and it comes from experience. That's the key. And the same thing goes with options trading. It comes from experience, saying, you know, when I say, oh, it'll be this or that or that, I'm not worried about it, this will be easy, blah, 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 we'll roll out of trouble. I say that it's a shorthand for what I'm thinking about is going to happen ahead of time. But you can't, you know, and again, the same thing goes for a chess player. A chess player isn't going to sit there and tell you about all the 150 moves he sees in his head in the next 10 minutes that are going to happen, the 150 potential moves, because in reality, there's only going to be 10 moves. He's thought of 15 times variations on each one. And that's how he's got 150 moves in his head. That would be insane to try to explain to somebody, right? You just have to learn by playing and thinking and understanding. And you know, so what I'm trying to do is sort of do the same thing with options, is you've got to think ahead and get train yourself to think ahead, get used to thinking ahead. And this all becomes not gobbledygook, it becomes easy. You're like, oh yeah, of course that's going to work out. You know, why would I be worried about that? Why would I worry about selling 10 short sun powers against 35 longs? Because ultimately what can happen? The worst thing that can happen is sun power gets bought. Let's say some power gets bought for $60. Well, now your short 35 calls are immediately going to be $25 that you're losing $25 on them, or less, whatever you sell them for. And that will now come out of the rest. Now, if your spread is a, what did I say, 1540? If your spread is a 1540 spread, that's 25, and 25 times 35 is, I don't know, I can't do the math. So it's 25 times 3500. So it's $87,500 at 40. And then you'd lose $20,000 because you sold the short calls and they went in the money. Okay, so you'd net 67.5, not 87.5. That's what your danger is. So your danger is fairly measurable. Could some power get bought for $100? You know, yes, sure. Some power could get bought for $1 billion. You can come up with all kinds of silly numbers, and that goes back to we're fundamentalists. We don't believe in that. We don't believe that's likely to happen. It's very unlikely to happen. So it's something you have to discount. Okay, just like when you're playing chess. And you say, well, an asteroid could hit the table and wipe off all the pieces. Like, well, yeah, I guess it could. You'd probably have other concerns if that happened than what your knight does next. So you leave it off the table. You don't consider it. It's the same thing. When something fundamentally ridiculous happens, you don't really count on that. And in your life, yeah, you know, you buy and sell thousands of stocks. Will you get burned sometimes? Sure. We had the stock Frontier. We didn't think that, you know, the owners kept telling us everything was great, Frontier Communications, and the owners kept telling us everything was great, and they had a plan for this and a plan for that, and they went bankrupt. You know, it just kept going down and down, and they kept saying, oh no, this will be fixed anytime now. We got this loan fixed, and they're moving this and doing that, and boom, gone. And after bankruptcy, they're back in business and doing good again, but it was just one of those scam things. So, you know, things happen that you don't expect, and you will lose money from time to time, but you can't play like that. You have to play like this is what would normally be realistic. And so in this case, planning ahead with some power, it seems pretty obvious that we can afford to sell 10 short calls. Not only can you keep rolling them, as long as they don't get bought. If they get bought, game over. So when they get, you know, somebody gets bought, you got to pay attention to these rumors, because you need to make your moves before that happens. But of course, look at Elon Musk with Twitter, right? Look at Twitter since Elon Musk has said he's going to buy them. So even when somebody does get bought or is getting bought, there's still a lot of wiggle room. I guess this is when he said he was buying Twitter. So he went all the way up to 50, and if you had sold the 40 calls, you'd be pretty pissed off, right? But still, it wasn't outside the range of reality. You know, like I just said, we planned for a 50% bump as possible. This wasn't a 50% bump. This was a 25% bump. So, Musk made an offer to buy Twitter at 52 or whatever the number was, and then it all went to shit, and everybody's screaming and fighting, and there's a court battle, and blah, blah, blah. And so they're still trading at 40. People still don't believe it's going to go through. And the offer was on the table. So lots of things can happen, but they probably won't. Focus on the things that probably will happen. Give yourself a margin of error, and also, unless somebody does get bought and it sticks and it doesn't go anywhere, which doesn't happen that often with a big company. With small companies, it can happen, but not usually with big companies. Then you're going to have time to adjust. And again, it would be an adjustment would be us buying more longs. We could just buy more longs to cover. But that also depends on your overall, positioning strategy. We like to have a lot of cash in our portfolio, so the contingencies like that can be dealt with. All right. Oh, it's 2 o'clock. We can get the Beige Book now. So Dan says, I'll take my 69 cents on what? SIZ2 since September 1st? I don't even know what that is. That's the Sports Illustrated swimsuit thing. Anyway, so how are we doing? How's that boys at Apple doing? Still there? Oh, no, that's Sundown. I'm like, holy shit. Hey, I was just saying we weren't planning on that. No, see, they're still languishing. Nothing exciting, which is fine. That's exactly what we expected, right? We have short 145s. We are not expecting excitement from Apple. Oh, by the way, we have, but also don't forget why you're in a position. We have the short 145s because we were protecting our extra long position. And what happened is when we were at 175 and that we still had those short 145s, they were deeply in the money, but we took our long money off the table, left the shorts, and let them devalue back, which is how we made such a tremendous amount of money since that happened. Because we cashed out at the top of the longs, and the shorts came back in value. And had they not come back in value, we would have spent money to roll them higher. Because again, Apple ain't getting bought by nobody. Nobody can buy Apple. Nobody's got $3 trillion to buy Apple. That's just not happening. So it's an unbuyable company, basically. But nobody's buying Apple, nobody's buying Google, nobody's buying Microsoft. They're just too big. And the act of buying them would be a monopolistic thing. It'd be very hard to imagine who would buy them that would not be making a monopoly. If Microsoft bought Apple or vice versa, if Apple were more realistically, if Apple bought Microsoft, people would freak out because they're taking over the operating system market and the search engine market and so on and so forth. So again, it's all goes into what's realistic, what's likely to happen. It's extremely unlikely Apple's going to get bought. So we are able to take a lot bigger risk. Same thing with Amazon, same thing with Disney. We can take a bigger risk on short calls with those stocks because they're not likely to jump 20% on us, nor are they likely to drop 20% on us. So we pick a value we feel is realistic, and then we watch what happens. Oh, look at the NASDAQ. Wow. So that's the key. Apple doesn't have to go higher, but if their conference here is optimistic, the market goes higher because the market's just happy that Apple sees the future being on track and in good shape, and then Apple's got the balls to sell $1,500 phones and $1,000 and $500 watches or whatever it is they're selling right now. Speaking of which, we can check back on that. But look at that, nice bounce in the NASDAQ, came right off 12,000. That's perfect. And the S&P is heading back to see about 4,000. That'll be the interesting thing. But I said we're going to test 4,000 this week, right? So now we'll see. It's all up to Powell tomorrow. Dollar. Oh, look at the dollar being super cooperative. The dollar fell 1% today. This was, is today the 7th? Yeah, today's the 7th. So this was this morning, pre-market, and now we're down, the dollar's down 1%. That's what's boosting the indexes over 1%. The dollar, nothing else. It's not a complicated thing. Gold's got to be doing good. Yeah, gold popped up, silver popped up. So all looks good now. I mean, right now everything's doing exactly what we thought it would do. So nothing to complain about, really. Oh, Dan meant silver to say. Oh, SIZ2 silver. I didn't think about that. I was wondering. I thought that slash was a mistake. SIZ2. Okay, the silver December contracts. He's very sophisticated. Look at that. That's a nice move. He caught them 69 cents. That's a huge amount of money. You know, but that's what we thought. Well, we thought they'd bounce off 18. I didn't see the play him down here. He apparently played him way down here. Very nice. All right, how are the boys from Apple doing? Google, Apple event, live blog. Da 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 da. iPhone. Da da da. Go away. Advertisement. Okay, that's better. Okay, watch. Oh, it's $300. That's not bad. All right. Apple Watch SE. Apple reduce the carbon footprint. Look how everyone cares about stuff like that now. Faster display. Da 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 da. My mother loves her Apple Watch. Apple Watch Ultra. Apple Watch for extreme athletes, including ultra marathoners, divers, blah blah blah. Is it thinner? Should be thinner. That's the key. I don't know what that is. That's weird. Da 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 da. Apple Ultra. Diving, 79 feet. That's pretty deep. Ultra price is $800. Holy crap. These guys are brilliant, man. Yeah, if you want to be sporty and have an Apple Watch, because I guess those kind of people, you know, generally a higher income earning people who do these extreme sports. Wow. Oh, good for you, Apple. Good targeting. And now they got AirPods, redesigned AirPods, AirPod Pro. Boy, you don't want to be an AirPod amateur, right? Oh my God. Memoji engraving. Apple's introducing understands the outside sounds will cut out sounds like street work while allowing you to hear 30 hours. Apple announces a new iPhone. Okay, Apple's new iPhone. It's ditching the mini and instead doing the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus. So there's no more small iPhone. I'm not happy about that. iPhone, not that I bought the mini, but I don't know. It wasn't small enough. I want a teeny tiny phone that barely functions for, you know, that barely is usable for like computer functions and things like that. I wanted to answer a question when I ask it, like, hey Siri, I want to be able to text people. If they say something, I can respond. But, you know, I don't need a whole full functioning computer in my pocket. It's not necessary. I just want a phone I can talk to people if I need to. That's me anyway. So I-14, blah, 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 49% low light cap. Everybody's in the cameras. They spend so much energy improving the cameras, which is right, because that's what my daughter cares about. She's like, what kind of cameras you got? And that's the funny thing. So you know, so she and her friends, they use it more for camera than anything else these days. And of course, constantly texting. So, oh no, look at the prices. Very good job, Apple. $799 and the 14 to be $899, unless of course you want some real memory. Jacks up on you real fast. Well, that's it. That's all we're up to. So nothing. No wonder they moved the price. I mean, nothing here is earth shattering. Nothing to really move the stock about. Let's see what the Fed has to say for themselves. Okay, so we're done with that. We don't need any of those things. Fed Beige Book. The Beige Book. La da 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 da. All right, collected before August 29th, so it's about a week old, that's fine. Economic activity unchanged since early July. 5 districts reporting slight to modest growth in activity, and 5 others reporting. So 13 districts, 5 said slight growth in activity, 5 said slight to modest softening. So 5 went one way, 5 went the other way. Most districts said it was steady. Steady consumer spending, households trade down and shift spending away from discretionary goods towards food and other essential items. I noticed DoorDash now goes to the dollar store for you to get food and stuff, which is interesting. Not that it was really that much cheaper. I was looking at the prices, but it was interesting that they've added the dollar store to DoorDash. Auto sales remain muted across most districts. Limited inventories, elevated prices. Yeah, cars are getting expensive. Hospitality and tourism contacts saw leisure travel, with some reporting an uptick in business and group travel. Manufacturing grew in several districts, although there were some reports of declining outputs there. It seems like some places are doing good, some are doing bad, basically. Despite some reports of strong leasing activity, residential real estate conditions weakened noticeably. Home sales fell in all 12 districts. Whoa. And residential construction remained in all 12 districts. Those are 13. And construction remained constrained by input shortages. Well, if home sales are falling, I don't know. Seems like commercial real estate activity softened, particularly demand for office space. People are not going back to the office like they thought, and companies are starting to look at that and say, why are we going to buy more? Why are we going to get more space? Very few companies are expanding office space. I'm just talking to a guy who wants to buy a 100,000 foot building, and I was like, are you sure about this? Because I would, a cheap 100,000 foot building, sure, but an expensive one, because he was looking at Miami. I was like, I don't know. I'm like, that's expensive real estate, and people are going to choose not to do that, I think. Loan demand was mixed, while financial institutions reported generally strong demand for credit cards and commercial industrial loans. Residential loan demand was weak. Okay, so the higher rates are just killing the housing market. Non-financial service firms experienced stable, slightly higher demand. Demand for transportation was mixed. Reports on agriculture across reporting districts varied, while demand for energy products was robust. Production remained constrained by supply chain bottlenecks for critical components. Wow, they're still saying that, huh? The outlook for future economic growth remained generally weak. Contacts noting expectations for further softening of demand over the next 6 to 12 months. So outlook is kind of grim. People they don't believe that we're getting out of this quickly. See, but the demand for energy products was robust. That's interesting. We talked about the ports a few weeks ago and how they were easing up, and the ports have eased up. Now the bottleneck is the rails. Now the rails are all backed up, and there's still a huge problem with shipping containers, because after a year of these issues at the ports, there are too many empty containers here and not enough empty containers in China. So we kind of have to start putting empty shipping containers on boats and sending them back to China, which is hugely wasteful. But they need shipping. They've got a shortage over there, and we've got a surplus over here right now of shipping containers. And the rail yards are just, they're too backed up with stuff. Labor markets. Employment rose at a modest to moderate pace in most districts. Overall labor markets. Oh, and by the way, the airports have gotten decongested, but that's because the FAA restricted how many flights and how many passengers to alleviate the overcrowding. So that's the thing. But meanwhile, the airline stocks, and I was looking at jets conceivably, as that's the ETF for the airlines. I wouldn't want to bet on any particular airline because they could take a real hit hard. But Jets is kind of low and is a very interesting little ETF. That's the ETF for the airline industry, and it's still trading at like rock bottom. And if you look at UAL, and we have Delta, so it's a what, 17. UAL is actually still cheap also. DAL, one we have. They're all way down. But I wouldn't want to pick one particular airline because you don't know who's going to have a striking union or something like that. Because labor issues are still a thing. But overall, I think it's a good time to pick up the ETF. And we played Jets before and had good luck with it last time we came out of, what was that? Was that 2020? I think it was in 2020 that we did it. When the market really tanked and everything was down, I was like, well, I was like, I don't want to pick an airline, but as far as an industry, it should recover. So where were we before I left off on that? I forgot now. The Fed, the Beige Book, right? Transportation. Further softening demand, 6 to 12. Okay. Employment rose modest to moderate in most districts. Labor market conditions are tight. All districts highlighted some improvement in labor availability, particularly among manufacturing, construction, and financial services. Moreover, employers noted improved worker retention on balance. Wages grew across all districts. That's going to keep happening. So that's going to be very hard for the Fed to contain inflation when that is going to just keep happening. Slower price increase, moderating salary expectations were widespread. Employers in several districts reported giving mid-year and off-cycle raises to offset higher living costs, and many noted that offering bonuses, flexible work arrangements, and benefits were deemed necessary to attract and retain workers. Looking ahead, employers plan to provide end-of-the-year pay raises, but the expectations for the pace of growth varied across districts. So, as I said, we're going back to the old 80s model where you need to give people raises and bonuses on a regular basis to keep up with inflation. Otherwise, you start losing employees. Price levels remained highly elevated. 9 districts reported some degree of moderation in their price rating. Substantial price increases reported across all districts for food, rent, utilities, hospitality, services. Manufacturing, construction costs remain elevated. Lower fuel prices, and they're much. See, now think about that. They're much lower now. And cooling overall demand alleviated cost pressures, especially freight shipping rates. Several districts reported some tapering prices for steel, lumber, and copper. I put up lumber this morning on our main thing. La-di-da. I guess I could go here. Nope, let's look at a longer term chart like daily. So look what happened to lumber. A real big crash, huh? Coffee's coming back down too. Fed, there they are. And copper. Most contacts expected price pressures to persist at least through the end of the year. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. And then they go district by district, except now I want to count because I thought there were 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, yeah, 12. What do you know? All right, so continuing inflation, continuing cost pressures, but all that stuff seems to be getting better, and we've just had a massive, massive change in energy. Look at that. So their report covers until the end of this month, and since then we're down another 10% on oil, and gasoline 20, not quite 10% on gasoline. And natural gas, good 10% there also. So big improvement. That's going to come through on the CPI report, and is going to be a very big help, actually. So the CPI is going to be, well, they're monthly, but so the quarterly reports are going to encompass an improvement, but the monthly reports are going to be gigantic, big improvements. And is that going to change the Fed's mind? No, it's not going to change the Fed's mind. They still, well, the point was, what do we think they're going to do at the next meeting, which is next Wednesday? Is it next Wednesday? No, 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now. So what's going to happen 2 weeks from now? Well, if this continues, if we don't go back all of a sudden back up, there's a much stronger likelihood the Fed will come in with a 0.5 point increase, because their thing is working, and it doesn't seem to make sense that they would want to do 75, because we're at 225. If they do 75, they're at 3, and their goal is 4. So realistically, they don't want to do too much. That would be terrible, because then they'll have to reverse themselves and look stupid, and that would be bad. And it's not an ego thing looking stupid. It's that if people lose confidence in the Fed, then everything can go to shit real fast. People have to believe the Fed can make these adjustments when they need to, so they don't panic about market changing conditions. But what the Fed has a hard time dealing with is the fact the dollar is so strong. That's tricky. And they can talk the dollar down by saying they're only going to do a 0.5 point cut. Meester from the Fed just said today that she's still looking at a 4% target. But if you're at 225 and you raise 0.75 at the next meeting, your 4% target isn't very far away, because that puts us at 3% of the next meeting, and we're not even done with this year yet. So 3.5 is what the Fed was saying from day one. That's baked into all the calculations we've done. 3.5 is right where the Fed said they'd be. We're ahead of their schedule. They said 3.5 next year was the first thing they said. Maybe 4, but 3.5 for sure. That's what they've always said about the rates. So none of this should be a surprise to anybody. And then they were going to see what happened. So I think still they're going to barrel forward to 3.5, but if 3.5 is your goal and this 0.75 puts you to 3, then you're kind of only going to have a 0.5 point increase at the next meeting. And there's 2 more meetings this year, September, October. I think there you go. Wait a minute. OMC meetings. Pretty sure there's, yeah, 2 more meetings. So September, and then November, and then December. So October, you're already at the end of September. So almost monthly, we're having a meeting. So if they're doing 0.75 at this meeting, right? If they're doing 0.75 here, that puts us to 3. If they do a 0.5 point here and a 0.5 point here, we're at 4, way ahead of schedule. That doesn't make sense. So it makes more sense for them to do a 0.5 point and a 0.5 point and a 0.5 point, as long as things seem to be progressing. If things do not seem to be progressing, they can very simply say, inflation, we did a 0.5 point, that pushed inflation back up, so we're going to move to 0.75, but we're very serious about getting to about 4 next year. But remember, 3 and 2/2 is 4, and it's not next year yet. And nobody's saying 5. Nobody on the Fed is saying 5 yet. So I don't think that they're given what I see now, again, if oil stays where it is, if gasoline stays where it is, if other consumer prices don't suddenly blow up, if labor costs don't blow up, and this is all very unlikely to happen in the next 2 weeks, then I don't think an 0.75 hike is really warranted. They might do it simply because they think the market can tolerate it. The market has like an 82% certainty it's going to be an 0.75, but I think logically I would want to have the flex. I would want to see the data points and see what happens if we don't do 0.75. So I would do 0.5. I would reiterate my target. I'd say now we're at 2.75. we expect to be at 3.5 after 2 more meetings. So we've got 0.75 in the next 2 meetings. I'm telling you that right now. Then we're going to go data dependent into the beginning of next year, which is when do they don't meet in January, I don't think. Well, no, they did. They met at the end of January. So the next meeting is probably going to be the end of January. It's another month later. You don't have to do it exactly right. If you're like, you know, if you've got a hose and you're filling a pool, you don't wait until the last possible second to turn it down, right? You start turning it down and give it another few minutes and see how it goes. And if it's going too slow, you put it back on. You know, you crank it up a little bit more. So I don't think that they want to overdo it. And I think that there's enough improvements in that beige book that makes me think that possibly the Fed is going to take a pause here and consider it wrapped up. So we'll see. Not a pause, but I mean take a pause from 0.75s and move back to an 05. 05 would be a rejoicing. So 05, you're still tightening, you're still doing everything. See, controlling inflation is physical, right? Look at what we did to the housing market. They don't want to crash the housing market. It's hard to uncrash. And especially because the only real way to uncrash is to reverse rates. That they definitely don't want to do. So they don't want the housing market to come down too hard. So 05 now would be a relief rally for a lot of things. It would also ease up the 30-year mortgages because of the curve of the cycle is not as bad. And they could always go back as long as they're going to say it's very data dependent right now. We're going to see what happens if we only do 5 at the next 3 meetings. And that would be more than they need to because we're at 225. So another 1.5 would be 3.7 would be 3.75. Yeah, if they do 3 half-point hikes, that's 3.75 to end the year. That's a good number to end the year. They don't need to be at 4. It's probably too aggressive, but they also don't want to look like they have no idea what they're doing. So half-point next hike, tell people they're probably going to do 2 more half-point hikes, data dependent. If inflation in any way, shape, or form spikes up between September 20th and November 1st, then they will be more aggressive, and you can expect that. That's all they have to say. Otherwise, another half-point hike and another half-point hike in December, and then we'll see what happens in January. I think the market could live with that. I think that'll make everybody happy. It'll make Congress people happy that going to the election without the market being crashing and everything falling apart. So to me, I think a half-point hike. That's what I see going on. Oh, anyway, all right. Let's see. My voice is getting a little scratchy, so I'm not going to go too long. So that's good, and Apple's good, and everything is good there. Nobody has any questions that I see, which is good. And did we finish talking about this? Yes, SoFi has picked up somebody to do the marketing for them, and SunPower also, and SunPower is the one we have very aggressive, so we're good there. And let's see if we refresh the money to our portfolio. Yep, 189. It's pretty damn good. So it's up 14,000 bucks from whenever we adjusted it last. Well, not even that, from last week. We just reviewed it last week. So these are good positions. Oh, and that was important, right? I was going to talk about that. These positions. So in other words, with 100,000 portfolio, you're using 35,000 in buying power, and also some. You also have to have room for margin. You also have to have margin for the short puts. But the upside potential here is $163,000, which is by the way $10,000 a month. So you know that's basically on track. The amount of making $14,000 since last week is just a little bit ahead of schedule, but it's what we should be doing every month in this portfolio. So if you want to do something from scratch, this is a from scratch portfolio with 6 positions that we expect to make $163,000 in. And I really like SoFi too. This doesn't even reflect how much I like them. And I think I mentioned we're going to probably want to roll these down to the $5 calls, and that'll cost about $1. So we'll spend $4,000 to roll these down to the $5 calls. That'll widen the spread. And we're not changing our target, but why would I buy these back for 68? That doesn't make any sense. So we're just going to widen the spread. We'll spend $1 rather than buy these back for 68, right? Why would I do that when for $1 I can roll these 250 lower into the money? That's how you make an adjustment. And we're going to do that too. That's going to be a big part of what we're doing in the next periods, because we sold half our positions in the last reviews. We raised a ton of cash, and now we have to look at each position and say, does it make sense to roll and adjust this position? So that's going to be, is that next week already? When do options expire? Yeah. So next week already, we have a lot of work to do. Oh. You have no idea. We made so many changes last month that I like have to update all the positions and all the portfolios. It's like a nightmare. But we'll do it. We'll get it done, and then we'll go over them. But at least when we go over them again, there'll be half as many positions. So that's the good thing about it. I'm pleased about that. Oh, I know what point I was making today. I read it, so here it is. So my point I was making today is that this should be bouncy, and it is. Obviously, it's been super bouncy. We're at 12,250. So that's pretty damn bouncy, right? We came all the way back to, well, it doesn't look bouncy, does it? It's right here. It's up there. But at least it bounced. That's the important thing. And if it bounces, what do you have? You have this W sort of pattern with a rising bottom trend line that's going to take you back to this test. But if you look at how the trend line is going to go up, it'll come here. And if this takes the same amount of weeks, these are weeks, if it takes the same amount of weeks to go up as it went down, probably this trend line is going to hit right about the same time as we test it. And like I said before, we already have the 200-day moving average crossing, 200-week moving average crossing over the week bounce line, and that's what made it more likely that this was going to be supportive, because it's very unlikely we'd get back down to 11,000. And if we're not going to get down to 11,000, the Nasdaq's saying, "Oh, what's the point of trying? You know, we're never going to get there, so what's the point of breaking below 12?" So hopefully that'll stick, and we'll be okay. Then the thing that was occurring to me that I thought was important to make a point of, though, is I listen to the news, especially on the weekends and things like that, and I think, what are people being told? Because you see these people panicking out of positions and so on and so forth. And I look at all these headlines, and I read the Wall Street Journal, I read the New York Times, I read other papers around the country, I read the Guardian in Europe and the London Times. I want to know what people are saying all around the world. What are these investors reacting to? And everyone is screaming about how the European Union is doomed over these exports, but then they don't give you any context. They just make these statements and expect you to just swallow whatever it is in the narratives. They sell papers. This kind of stuff sells papers when they tell you how screwed everybody is. But the reality is that Europe never got more than 40% of the natural gas from Russia. It's now already, this is not a current chart. This is at least a month, it's a couple of months old. It should probably, I mean, look, here's 20, all right, so 20, 21, 22. So half of that would be a full year. And no, it's not so bad. It's probably into June, July. But the thing is that this is only 25%. This net is 25% of their total gas imports from everybody. In other words, Russia was 40% of 100% at its peak. Now it is 17% of 100%. So it's not even down 25, but let's say it's 25. So it's down 25%, but it's 25% of your natural gas is being taken offline. And natural gas then was only not 40%. Natural gas was only it was 40%. No, wait, 40% from Russia, blah, blah, blah. Oh, 25% of their, no, 24%. There it is, 24%. Natural gas is 24% of EU energy. So now you got to say, oh, it's 25% of 24% of the energy is offline from Russia. That's 6%. 25% of 24% is 6%. So how is this impact going to destroy the EU? How is it going to plunge them into a massive recession? Okay, now, if this were 10 years from now, it would probably have been worse because they would have gotten rid of their alternatives, right? You know, if you have all natural gases doing your electricity, whatever, and you don't have coal and so on and so forth, but they still have coal plants. They've got coal mines, they've got coal plants. They don't want to use them. They've been phasing them out, but they're there. Actually, Europe has been cutting down a lot of forests lately, and people are pissed about that. But they've been burning wood. They've got lots of wood. They got wood all over the place. In World War II, they ran everything on wood. You know, they were running tanks on wood. They had wood burn. You know, they create very compressed wood pellets, and they burn pretty hot. And they would retrofit their vehicles to run on wood. You know, and that was in the 40s. So, you know, what do you think we can do today if we wanted to? Environmentally, no, not a good thing. But are they going to starve to death instead and go into a depression? No, they're not. They're going to burn wood. They're going to burn wood. They're going to burn coal, and they'll alleviate the problem. While they're doing that, we'll keep building gas, because you know what's happening here for Putin is screwing himself because he's become an unreliable source of gas. So even when he turns the pipeline back on, they are going to spend the rest of this decade finding alternatives to him. And eventually they're going to say, no, thank you. And they're going to say, we don't want your gas. We don't want to rely on your gas. You're not a partner. You're a guy who holds us hostage for gas. We don't like that. That's the same reason that the rest of the world started drilling for oil, because the Saudis were holding people hostage in the 70s. And that ended up diminishing OPEC's power considerably because they overplayed their hand. They showed what evil sons of bitches they were. And everybody said, okay, well, we'll buy from you, but we don't like it. And we're going to do whatever we can to find other ways to power ourselves. You're not, because after many, many years where the Saudis had a great relationship with the West and everything was great, and all of a sudden they go, you know, the radicals came in and so on and so forth, and they made it political, and they held us hostage for oil, something we had taken for granted. We stopped taking it for granted. We started drilling a lot more all over the world. People started drilling a lot more, and the Saudis no longer had a monopoly on the situation. They ruined it for themselves. Putin is ruining it for himself right now. And OPEC is being cautious with Putin because they don't want to, they know what happens if they piss everybody off. Because this is damaging. And Europe is going to suffer a lot of economic damage and a lot of hardship and so on and so forth. And they will then turn around next year and they will approve $1 trillion for alternate energy and so on and so forth to get themselves off it. They'll build their own LNG terminals and start inviting every gas producing country to ship them LNG. And that's going to change the balance of power. There is, you know, America has more natural gas than all these countries. We could run the whole world on natural gas for 100 years, 200 years. That's why we're building LNG terminals. But Europe was well supplied by Russia and hadn't been considering making an alliance with America. Why? Because why put it on a ship and put it across the sea and so on and so forth when we can just get it in a pipeline from Russia? But now you say, I don't want to get in a pipeline from Russia. It's not a politically tenable position for us. All of a sudden, we start looking really good. So good for our natural gas industry. And I imagine that probably they're going to start rethinking nuclear. That's going to be a hard sell for the people because they really had kind of phased out most of the nuclear energy in Europe. They're going to have to resell that now to the people as saying this is an important source that we need. And of course, wind and wave also is probably going to start catching on a little bit more too. The bottom line though is they're going to say we don't have a cheap, reliable. You no longer have a cheap, reliable source of natural gas. When you burn people like this, they react, and that's going to hurt Putin in the long term. It's going to devalue Russia's assets. It's a very, very, very stupid move. And Ukraine is really kicking ass this month in the war. They're pushing back hard. I'm a little worried though that they're pushing back too hard. So it's going, it's going so well for the Ukraine. I worry that they're pushing back too hard and they're exhausting themselves, and then Russia can, mount a counteroffensive. Although so far nothing Russia has done has actually worked out. So, we just hope they continue to be incompetent. Zelensky is saying he wants Crimea back. That's he's getting a little full of himself. He wants to take back Crimea while he's at it. So anyway, so natural gas. So what and what happened in America is we've maxed out. See, and again, it's extrapolations, right? Everybody extrapolates things. So what was going on is gas prices were going up, and our exports were going up, and all of our gas fields are going at slam bang. So what we've done though is we've now maxed out the capacity we have for sending natural gas out of the country. We didn't build enough pipelines to send it out of the country. We don't have enough terminals to send it out of the country at the rate that people are now demanding it. You can't change that overnight, but you know what? You can change it over a year. And so next year, the year after that, we can replace every single ounce of natural gas Russia is providing to Europe. We would love to do that. That'd be a great long-term contract with our allies in NATO, blah, blah, blah. So Putin's, he's screwed up, man. It was not a smart move, because he has now turned himself into a person you don't want to do business with. And that was not the case previously. It's like, we could have had political differences with Russia and this and that, but nobody ever used the, they didn't use the supply resources against us. Same thing with China, by the way. That's why China, they threaten with the rare earths, but they never do anything about it. They never do anything about it for the same reason. The minute they become an unreliable supplier of rare earth materials, we start a $1 trillion research project to get off of, or at least get off of their rare earths and move to something else. All of a sudden, Northern Dynasty, by the way, which is why we have NAK stock, all of a sudden, Northern Dynasty gets a second look, and they say, you have how much rare earth is in that thing? How are they doing? Nope, still nothing. Every once in a while, it's like a glimmer of hope, and then it dies out. But yeah, Biden's firmly against that thing, and if he runs for re-election, it's not going to be good for them. Anyway, where were we? So this was a very important point, though, is that you have to have perspective. Don't let people just throw numbers at you and make generalizations about things. When they tell you, 100,000 people wrote letters and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, there's 300 million people in the country. So 100,000 letters is not necessarily, especially when you know that the letter campaigns are organized and people are pushing that their church mates and so on and so forth all write a letter that says 1,000 people from this church and 1,000 from that church. That it's not like there's this spontaneous groundswell of people freaking out about whatever it is they're freaking out about. You've always got to think of the context of these things and what people are saying. And it's like SunPower too. You look at SunPower, they're doing $1 billion worth of no, I can tell there. Yeah, 1.5. They're doing at 1. See, look at it. Before the pandemic, 1 billion. Post-pandemic, they're moving to 2 billion. So they're doubling in 5 years, which is what you want to see for a good growth company, right? And if 5 more years from now they're doing $4 billion, and we know that this would be abnormal, but certainly they can drive 5% profit to the bottom line for sure. and probably more than that when they cease their R&D efforts, probably not 30%, but probably 10, 20% to the bottom line. So if we look at them in 5 years from now being at $4 billion and let's say $400 million in profit, and we're only paying $4 billion for the company now, that's a company I want to own for 5 years, right? And is it going to stop growing? No, because total value U.S. solar industry, or U.S. solar panels, I guess. U.S. solar, okay, so there were 9.8 billion total shipments in 2021. I don't know what that's, but let's say probably you're looking at more like, well, we could do the math because there's 100 million homes. Let's say only 50 million homes are eligible for solar panels, right? And let's say it's $30,000 per home, which is low. That's, wait. Millions, billions, trillions, $1.5 trillion. Last year it was $10 trillion. So divided by 10. What? It's still 100. Oh yeah, of course, still $150 billion. So there's still $150 billion of installations to go. So at this pace. So even if it picked up to divided by 50, let's say we divide that by, oh, I'm sorry. If we divide that by 50 million homes, no, let's try this again. We got 50 million homes that would be capable of having solar energy, basically. You got to think a lot of them we disqualify for whatever reason, times 30,000. That's 1.5 billion, right? To get to 10 billion, that's what I didn't do. I didn't do that right. Divided by 10. So let's say it doubled every year. So let's say it was 10 billion in 21, 20 billion in 22. So let's say we could knock off, doesn't matter because it's $1.5 trillion. So if you knock off $50 billion that we've done in the last so far, what? I divided, son of a bitch. 1,500 billion minus 50 billion is 14.5 billion. And if we divide that by 20 years, there you go, 72 billion a year. So that's if over the next 10 years, we're going to put solar on 50% of the homes in the country, we would have to install 72 billion a year. And we're currently installing, let's say 20, let's say it doubled from 2021, probably didn't. But let's say we're currently doing 20. So it's going to get 3 times bigger, and it's every single year. And we're not even close to ramping up to that. So when you look at SunPower's number now and you say, okay, well, here's their market share now of 9 billion, they're doing 10% of 10 billion, they're doing 10% of all solar installations now. So if they keep doing 10%, they're going to be at $7 billion a year of installations. And if it's 1.5 trillion of installations, they're ultimately going to do $150 billion worth of installations in the US. And that's just the US. That's not even talking about what they're going to do overseas and so on and so forth. So if they just maintain the market share they have now and the market grows and we hit our goals of what we expect to be doing as far as putting solar on people's roofs and so on and so forth. And don't forget that also includes almost virtually every single new home. The plan for the home from now on is going to be to make it a solar home. So it's going to be all all 1 million homes that get built every year are going to be made for solar specifically, plus the amount that they can convert. And if they convert, we were running those numbers on 50 million homes. So if they convert 5 million homes a year, and there's no way we have the people or the facilities or anything to do that right now. But if we convert 5 million homes a year and 1 million new homes are built also, then 6 million new homes are added every year on our way towards 50 million at some point. That'll be when we peak out doing it. And then knowing that, that's when we sell, right? When it peaks out and they can't, and the curve begins to go down, and we can see that, okay, there's only this many houses left, blah, 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 and there's only this much likelihood of this and that. And by then we'll know what other countries are going into and what programs they have and so on and so forth. But the bottom line is the growth ahead, the path ahead is phenomenal. And it's being pushed by the government. So again, that matters too. If Biden gets reelected, we can expect a solid 6 more years of this stuff for these guys. Huge expansion. And right towards the end of his term, we want to bail because they would have already installed more than half of what needs to be installed. And so it would be kind of a little downhill from there at that point. But anyway, that's why it's that stock of the decade, because the whole thing plays out over the course of this decade. And I expect them to remain a major player. I mean, obviously, 10% market share, they're already a major player. I expect them to remain a major player over the rest of the decade. They'll get their share of that money, of that $72 billion a year that we're expecting to come in. They'll have their share, they'll have their $7 billion, and that $7 billion is 7 times where they're at now, or 5 times where they're at now, whatever. But point being, huge amounts of room to grow, and at some point the money drops to the bottom line. They hit economies of scale. They do less R&D. It becomes more of a commodity item, and they make some good money putting it in. That's where we're going to be. And meanwhile, then you read the article saying, "Oh, we're going to run out of rare earth material and this and that." And it's like, not really. They'll work it out. You know, rare earth materials aren't rare because they're like gold and there's only so much of it. Okay, that's rare. Rare earth means that when you sift through the earth, you only find very, very tiny amounts of these materials. But it is kind of it is found in many, many places. And so there are large areas that you know, and now you have to strip mine a mountain to dig through it to get these things. And China doesn't care if they do it. That's why they're the #1 producer. China strip mines, you know, they'll strip mine a mountain range and dig up all the rare earth materials. But they're not rare because they can't be found anywhere else. They're rare because the environmental damage you do digging, you know, sifting through all this earth to get them out is unpalatable. But you know what? If we start running out and that's what we need, and we're going to do it. Because the alternative is baking. The alternative is baking like we're in an oven. So, you know, people are going to have to make, you know, interestingly, environmentalists are going to have to start making hard choices about what do you want to do? What's going to do the least amount of harm? We have to pick. We can't do it all. You're going to have to decide what you want to save and what you want to make worse. And you know, hopefully science will advance and things will get a little better and so on and so forth. But by the way, efficient solar panels, of course, if they're done right, will use less material to get more electricity, and that's an advantage too. So it's all going to be very interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's going to be an interesting future. Oh, anyway, all right, I'm about done. Anybody got a question? Hopefully not. No, fantastic. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. We'll do it again next week. And like I said, next week, huge activity, huge. We are going to be changing portfolios massively. They'll be reviewing everything. And oh, God, I can't even imagine. Oh, can I skip next week? I'm going to skip next week. I'm already too tired for it. Anyway, have a nice day, everybody. I appreciate it. Talk to you soon.